What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to continue just a conversation on mental diets and hopefully add something positive to your mental diet for today. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about, a bunch of stuff going on in the world, and everything's kind of vying for your attention. And so I appreciate you, spending some time with with me today, and yeah, hopefully I'm a good steward of your attention. So, with that being said, I wanted to talk about catching undesirable, situations, circumstances, events. When these things happen, to start tracking back the bridges of incidents. Is one way to say it. The flow of thought is another way to take a look at it that may have contributed to this outcome. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of times when like undesirable things happen, it's easy to go, well, I knew that would happen. I had a feeling it would, that would be difficult and frustrating and annoying. And it was, I was right again. Start looking at all of these things that are undesirable, that you believe are real and that it's just a normal part of your life experience, and start reevaluating those beliefs and assumptions, because a lot of times those are limiting. A lot of those are mindsets that are not necessarily even reflective of normal everyday life. Is like, is there other people that you're surrounded by that doesn't seem to happen to, ever? It just seems like it's just you for some reason. Start looking at, how those beliefs and those assumptions are playing a role, and take ownership and responsibility of not only the things that are working and functioning harmoniously, but look at the things that are causing chaos and disruption and anger and angst and suffering. And those are the things that are the next logical step to start letting go of. I had something like that just recently happened with my vehicle. It was like, just basically got a vehicle for my wife through trade, through doing a job for like a handyman business. They paid me in a vehicle, and so she's been able to drive that. It's been a real awesome blessing, and really thankful for that. But then my work vehicle was also running and everything, and just put new tires on it and put some investment into that to kind of get that prepared for the season, and started having thoughts, fears, of like something happening and being down to one vehicle again. And shortly after that, big surprise, then I hit a pothole and just totally fucked up the strut of the vehicle, which then had a compounding issue because I backed the vehicle up onto the road so I could jack the car up to see if I just needed a strut, or if there were some other issues with like a sway bar, any of that kind of stuff that's like behind the tire. I just wanted to see before going to the junkyard, and then just doing now, next thing screwed the front axle up on the left side, and now it's out of commission. And so start to track back how that fear kind of manifested in believing, that could be a possibility. And then, oh, surprise, surprise, it did manifest, and so that's kind of like the vibe of kind of what I'm trying to get to today. And so whenever there's like those kind of repeating fears that come true, take ownership of that as well. I mean, get out of this victim mindset that oh, yeah, it's unconnected, it's just random chaos, and you're just like God's punching bag where all just this bad shit happens to you, but then there's other people that it doesn't happen to. So you let go of these mindsets and realize that just as easily as like the thought of fear and believing that that's real can manifest that situation, the opposite is also true, where you can just as easily assume that it will be taken care of. This is part of a bridge of incidents that you don't need to sit there and judge and worry about. It's part of acceptance. It's letting go of that kind of bullshit and drama and baggage. And what's the best case scenario? Oh, it's just going to work out. It's not something to worry about. It's not something to be in a state of fear about. And it's not something to now all of a sudden drift into believing separation's real. On the other hand, more importantly, it shows more so how this connectivity is working. And so it's like, well, just as easily as that fear can manifest, the desirable can manifest as well. And, going through a few days, I was able to get all the jobs I needed to get done for my handyman business, with my contractor. We were able to work together to basically get this job done with, knowing I don't have a vehicle, and it all worked out. My wife's able to still drive her vehicle to her jobs that she's doing for the handyman business, and so it all kind of worked out. And then, fast forward to today, I was on a phone call, with my uncle. We're kind of going over some of my dad's like estate stuff. My dad just passed away a couple months ago, and at the end of December, which would be 2 months ago, something like that. And so that's still something that's going on with the estate, and drama with the lawyers and all this kind of bullshit. But like, just in talking to him, he wanted me to go over to my dad's and see if there's anything in the mailbox that the attorneys can use to kind of get this shit together or whatever. And I told him about the situation with my vehicle. And he's like, oh, just you just go use your dad's car, just because he's like the person in charge of like making sure everything's whatever. And he was just like, yeah, just go over there and get it, and you can just drive it, who cares. And so it's like, oh, okay, well that solves that. And it was just as simple as like a mindset thing, shifting to like, my vehicle's not going to be a problem. Next thing you know, boom, 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 and without efforting or whatever, it just kind of came together naturally and easily and organically. And that's something I want to share with you guys, so that you too can just like start creating more of a positive mindset and an expectancy of like a hopeful resolution, versus like the stories I tend to tell myself of like, oh shit, this is going to be difficult, this is going to be frustrating, it's going to be one thing after another, I don't want to do it, I don't want to deal with it, just all of this like kind of negativity about whatever, mainly because of an expectancy, which is something I kind of have been sharing with you guys, how important having a positive expectancy is. Towards outcomes, and part of that expectancy, it's not something that you need to spend a whole lot of mental efforting about. It's actually the exact opposite, where it's just like you're embodying who you actually are, which is not a mental, I need to think a certain way, or with my certain mind, and I need to it's really getting out of the mind and just like trusting that the connection that you have with your creator, which is within you, is what draws it to you. You are not, it's like a cooperative thing, in the sense that you do what is needed to be done. That's obvious. It's like, think of like a garden. It's like, okay, you go out to it. It's like, what can you do? It's like, well, you can obviously pull the weeds out. You can obviously see if the soil needs water. But besides just those obvious things, you can't make the plant grow taller. It's like, you can't make sure that the sunlight is exchanging with the leaf. It's like you have no business in that area. But it's like a cooperative thing. It's like you can kind of like do your best, and then ultimately trust that then it'll be taken care of. And so part of like shifting out of this like I gotta do, which I feel like is a stumbling block of, say, like the law of attraction, where it's like I need to have like ideal thoughts to create an ideal you made it moment, or whatever it is you're trying to like achieve physically in the material world. And like getting out of that kind of thing, kind of accepting that every state exists, and every state has a corresponding physical manifestation that God has already created. Like, you don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. And it's actually when you let go of worrying about how it's going to happen, and just trust that infinite intelligence is always just bringing you the ideal, perfect situation, to stop sitting there judging what's being brought to you, being like drawn to you, or any of that kind of stuff, and like resisting and battling against it. But just instead, kind of getting into a state of being of like, I am in the kingdom of God, and everything that's happening is like divinely happening. It's all coordinated. It's all happening just as effortlessly as my breathing, or my heart beating, or my hair growing, or any of these types of things. It's like you don't have to think about making your hair grow. It's like the same thing with like the promises of God being true. It's like you don't got to think about them being true. It's just like it just is that. And it's like the more that you're able to just accept that it's just like that, and that's how it is, that you are new, everything is new, and you're letting go of this old story, it makes things a lot more flow based and not more the journey, which is only happening now, being enjoyable, versus like constantly suffering and striving and sacrificing in the present moment for this you made it moment in this imaginary future. It's like making the future dream a present reality, embodying that state of consciousness now. And ultimately, like the highest level of that, because everybody's got these different levels of what that means, but we're all trying to experience love. And a lot of our like efforting and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to manifest shit and by manifest, it's just like basically bringing an idea into reality. It's like, I have an idea to start a business, and then making that fucking thing happen. That's sometimes I feel like I get a vibe, I'm not saying it's real, but from like people and like manifesting things, like it's just I don't, it's like there, it's like it's just done, it's just like, no, it's more about like I desire to play an instrument, for another example. It's like you don't just, now I'm a master at it. I got like a matrix download, and I can just pick it up and I can play the piano like fucking Mozart or whatever. It's like there's a process to bring that like ideal. It's like, why do you even want to do that? It's like, because it seems like maybe that's who I want to be for a while, or it just seems fun. It seems like something I want to do for whatever reason, and then going through the steps to make that happen. And it's like, the more that you realize that you don't have to come up with the steps, that as soon as you make that decision of like, oh, I want to experience that, next thing you know, maybe somebody is like, that is like, hey, I got an old keyboard I'm trying to get rid of, do you know anybody wants it? It's like all these things will start just happening, and it'll feel so natural and normal, you'll almost like miss it as being like, oh wait, that desired thought, or that, I wouldn't even go like it's a negative. It's like, oh, that just desire of the heart or whatever. It's just, now it's coming together so easily and naturally. Another example of that too is like something that I see a lot in just like from like a business maybe mindset or whatever from like experience, is like so many times you're trying to get sales or like stir up business. It's like, okay, well, I gotta advertise, I gotta market, I'm gonna make this phone fucking ring, I'm gonna start going through my contacts, I'm gonna make things happen. Yeah, sometimes that you can do things in the short term like that. A lot of times you'll get an inspiration to do something like, oh, I don't have any jobs, but you just get this little idea or something. It's like, oh, maybe you can go through your garage and see if there's anything that can be refurbished and sold like that. So that's one thing. It's about taking and jumping when those like insights or there's like ideas, whatever, when you're desiring to like say stimulate business, and then you get a little idea to do that, to take the fucking action and make it happen and do it. But like, one of the things, too, is that to ultimately trust that God's bringing the opportunities and everything. You as a separate ego identity is just going to create suffering, difficulty, sacrifice, all this drama, all this shit. And I have personally experienced that over and over again. It's just like, okay, well, I need to, get this going so I can pay my contractors, so I can, get the bills paid, this and that. And like, I gotta do. But it's when you change that mindset to, oh, I am already abundant. Why am I in scarcity mindset again? Which is, kind of a red flag of being in the old identity. It was always in a scarcity mindset because, part of the scarcity mindset is you think you're separate from what you're trying to achieve when you're not. It's like a process of realizing that the connection you have with your creator is within you, and that new heart that you have now is what is naturally, effortlessly, and whatever drawing it to you. The only thing that you can really do about that, because you are abundance, you are prosperity, you are health, you are all these things, that is who you are in your true identity. You can create stories in your mind, and you can create limiting beliefs and assumptions, and you can resist that, and you can push that away. It's like, oh no, I don't want this because, I feel like, whatever judgment call or whatever programming you got when you're culturally, even, or as you're brought up through childhood, all this kind of shit. it's all relative, and a lot of it is just nonsense. It's like wanting to believe in like Santa Claus, and it's like I'm going to just create this wall of resistance. I'm just going to believe this limiting story, and that's just who I'm going to create this identity around, this limitation. It's like you see it a lot, in just culture, American culture. I don't really dip a lot into like the media, like mainstream, whatever, but you'll see a lot of like obvious like identity related issues that cause separation and division, and not to judge creation for doing that, because it all is working harmoniously. It's like it sucks for the people that want to believe in you know separation and fear and everything, because then that belief causes torment for them. But we all reap exactly what our consciousness is doing, so it's like there's a season for like maybe like feeling for the suffering of others, but then it's like you're doing it to yourself. So how long do you want to keep spending the present moment suffering? And the thing of it is like those same people will advocate continuously how great suffering is in the present moment. It's just like, well, if you fucking love it so much, enjoy it. But for everybody else that just realizes, hey, it's only ever now. Why would I stay in fear, which is why would I stay in illusion? But the whole thing is not to sit there and judge it, but it's like when you see like, oh, my skin color is my identity, my sexual orientation is my identity, all of these external things that are separate things, where it's like, oh, if your skin color is your identity, well then everybody that's not the same color, then all of a sudden there's an us versus they. There's a binary, so many things from the world has this identity where it's like creating separateness based on an assumption that you're something that's not even actually who you are. So that's part of like the insanity of it. And a lot of the times when you're confronted with a lot of these limitations and a lot of this drama and everything, just that reminder of like, that is not who I am anymore, is enough to start moving to a new state. So if like, say you start creeping into scarcity again, or creeping into like pain, or some of these aspects of identity that are not who you are, but you're connecting with it for some reason, and one of the easiest ways to realize that is if someone calls you a negative name. It's like, say it's like somebody who has like suffered arthritic pain for 20 something years. If someone like says, oh, gimpy or whatever, some derogatory thing, and it's like, I feel super offended by you saying that. Well, that's because you made that part of your identity, and that's not actually who you are. And so it's a quick way to be like, wait a second, that actually was helpful in the sense that I've made a story about something about my identity that's not who I am. And so I'm going to let that part of that's who I was. It's part of the old me that was crucified with Christ. I am new, and that's not who I am now, and so letting that go, realizing that who you are now is connected with not only God, but then everything else in creation you're connected with. We're all part of the same thing, and so realizing more and more so that is really helpful to, and at the same time, realizing that you are personally powerless to know how these states manifest. You can only see the result of being in that state, and it's like, okay, well, drifted into the old state again. Because so much of our old identity was creating states that are contrary to love, that are ultimately what we're letting go of, because only love is actually real, and perfect love casts out fear. And so everything that we did create was fear, and by acknowledging that, whenever we feel fear, we can instantly kind of realize at the same time that that's an illusion, and the kind of the remedy to that is realizing that you're not separate from the situation, you're not separate from what you're desiring. If anything, that fear is creating the actual thing that you're not wanting, and it's as easily as a shift in mindset and realizing who you are now in Christ. and releasing that fear, letting go of that fear, and ask God how to do that. It's like you can listen to perspectives out here, but ultimately the teacher is within you. And so it's very, very important to start developing that relationship, and through actual knowledge and wisdom, which is through your own personal experience of heavenly things, of like spiritual things, which is a real thing that you can start now, especially when you start seeing how synchronistically all these things line up, all these numbers for some reason that are just like, it's all connected. Nothing is by accident, nothing's a coincidence. And so part of the old mind was a mind of chaos, which thought there was all this random shit. And because you believe that, then that's what you experience. It's all based on what you believe to be real. And the highest level of those beliefs is, the teachings that Jesus shared, and demonstrated. And that by you kind of following that example, will also start to demonstrate in your own life as you start expressing that same life. That might sound crazy, but it's like, test it for yourself. I encourage you to, and you'll see it with your own eyes, and you'll know it's real. And it's like, once you kind of let go of a lot of these limitations, a lot of the, I got to keep my mind in a certain mindset, instead, shifting out of that and realizing that everything that you desire is already coming to you effortlessly and as easily as you're breathing it in. It's happening. Stop judging the flow of what's happening, because a lot of times when you change states, so for example, from scarcity to abundance, you get confronted with everything that has kept you in that paradigm, that's holding you in that prison. So it's like, I think scarcity is real because there's food banks, and like there's people that dig out of trash, and like it's like I have a hard time paying my bills, and there's all these reasons. There's all of these reasons that you truly believe it. Honestly, everything that you're experiencing is a reflection of your true belief. You can't lie to yourself. God is within. God knows what you're thinking. And what you believe. Everything, it's like you're not hiding anything, and everything that you're experiencing is a perfect mirrored reflection of that. So when you experience the opposite, and it's like, that's why I believe it's true. It's like, redefine that. It's like you are experiencing that, and it's easier to do that once you've changed states multiple times and you see it's the same pattern over and over again. Because what can happen is, like, when that first starts to happen, it's like you just want to give up. It's like, I moved from scarcity to abundance, and now all of a sudden, there's like a surprise bill or some bullshit, or whatever, and it's like, I just lost all my money. It's like, nope, scarcity's real because I just lost it all. And it's like, that should be a sign. It can be a sign. Once you do it enough times, it's like, you just start laughing at it. It's like, that was just a limitation that manifested why you believe that you should be in scarcity, because that. But then once you realize that's not real, it's just theater, it's just something that's going on a bridge to ultimately just letting go of you trying to fucking control shit, and realizing God's in control of everything, and that connection within you is the magnet that's drawing it to you. And it's not hard. It's effortless as blinking. It's makes it a lot less stressful. It makes you enjoy like the present moment more. It makes you able to kind of like appreciate what you have to take care of. And if there's things that are obviously fucked up with your life, maybe it's just like your body. Maybe you just like feel like, I just have let myself go. I don't whatever it happens to be, whatever negative thing that you're telling yourself, it's like, okay, that's the next logical thing. Whatever is keeping you from enjoying life today, right now, this very moment, that's what you should be letting go of, asking God to help you let go of, because it's only ever now. So it's like you can carry that with you for fucking years. Do you want to spend the present moment, which is eternity? The only time that's real is now. The only time that matters is now. The rest of it's just gibberish, it's just nonsense. It's imaginings and stuff like that. And it's like, you can't, and it's good to have like a hope, of things improving. But what can you do today to be thankful? Because if you're not thankful today, you're not going to be thankful ever. It's like, what can you do to feel joy today? What can you, it's like, it's all about just bringing that future. It's like, what would you do in heaven? It's like so many like people I know from church and stuff. It's like, once you get to heaven and you're connected with God, but it's like you're connected with God now. So it's like, why is the things that God's promised in heaven not the reality now? And there's a bunch of mental gymnastics I hear from people, especially when you start doing this and you see with your own eyes that whatever you asked for and you believe that you received it and it's yours, that's a real fucking thing, and that happens over and over and over again. It's like, what do you really want? It's like, you want some material thing that's just as a symbol, or do you want the actual spiritual wisdom and knowledge that thing represents, and then you can just get it whenever by an understanding about how things just work. It's just, another example, there's so many of it. This is just like normal, that this is how things are after a while. And it's just like, you just want to share that with people that are on some level able to hear it. And if you're hearing this now, on some level you wanted to be exposed to this. It's like you manifested this. Your desire brought this to you. It's nothing's an accident or a coincidence. So hopefully I can, bring you some good mental food for your well-being for today. And I think I'm going to probably wrap this thing up. I got to take care of the chickens here. Still got we got that like wild one that joined the flock a couple months ago. I don't know, around Christmas time. Time's such a blur anymore, but like decided it's going to join the flock. They seem to be getting along better. It doesn't seem to trust the other birds. It likes to stay like on top of the door and stuff like that, but like things are coming together. But like with that being said, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. Appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And until the next now, God bless.